Today, March 14th, we see Mercury move into its retrograde motion. This is going to be the first of 3 retrogrades we see this year for Mercury, and it's going to be in retrograde motion until April 7th, staying in the sign of Aries until March 29th, where it will retrograde into the sign of Pisces. This retrograde period of Mercury is one of its annual movements. Mercury is the divine communicator, a channel between the mortal and immortal worlds. In mythology, Mercury was considered the messenger of the gods and could pass down insight and information from the heavens. It's all about the messages that we see and give. Mercury rules over the mind, the third eye, thoughts, and communication styles. At times, it can have a playful trickster energy that can influence our experience with technology, travel, and contract agreements. Mercury enters retrograde about 3 to 4 times a year, making it a normal part of its cycle through the cosmic skies. When Mercury is in retrograde, we may find communication a little more challenging. We could find it difficult to make decisions and experience issues with technology, travel, or contracts. Yet Mercury's retrograde is an annual part of its cycle. It is a time for us to slow down and look at the representations this planet brings to us, and to look at how our communication, our thoughts, and our minds may need to be changed, bringing to light those hidden aspects of this planetary energy that need to be brought into our realization. Ancient astrologers believed that when Mercury was in retrograde, it was traveling through the underworld, collecting lost, hidden, or trapped messages from deep within our subconscious. As Mercury travels through the underworld, it could bring new information to light, changing how we feel and our plans, digging deep into those hidden aspects of our being that we keep in the darkness. Moving through the underworld is another way of looking at the planet moving through the darker representations of itself. While Mercury is moving through the underworld, it's a good time to slow down, go back over things, revisit the past, reevaluate our communication skills, reevaluate our thinking styles, reevaluate our mindsets, and pay attention to subconscious thoughts and programming. Mercury can be very healing and highlight in a highly intuitive time when we use it in the right way. Mercury retrograde can also trigger our psychic abilities, guiding us to step away from the information in our seen world and instead rely on the information in the unseen world, really allowing us to connect to our inner knowing, our intuition, and those inner aspects of ourselves that are guiding our way. Our dreams can become more insightful. They can bring things to light, allow us to see the future, allow us to see where things are going, bringing these inner realizations out of the subconscious and showing us in our dream world. Mercury retrograde tends to have a negative reputation, but everything is neutral in astrology. It's what you make of the energy and how you choose to use it. So you hear a lot of the time people saying, don't do this during Mercury retrograde. That's kind of silly, seeing as the retrograde motion happens 3 to 4 times a year, and you're going to spend 4 to 6 weeks doing nothing 4 times a year. That's very unrealistic in the modern world that we live in. Also, this is an annual process of the planetary movement. It is here to allow us to dig into the subconscious, to allow us to see how our communications, how our thought patterns, how the things that we perceive in the world are influencing how we communicate and the messages that we're giving. Mercury is related to the stories that we tell, including the story we tell about ourselves. So Mercury retrograde is a very important time to look within yourself to see how you are telling stories about your existence, about yourself, and about what you can achieve. Because these stories might need to be brought to light to see that you are holding yourself back with the words that you are choosing to use, the thoughts that you are having. It also allows us to connect to our intuition and let us know that the things that we need to know that are unseen. Our intuition is a guide that cannot be expressed in realistic terms. It's not something that you see out there. It's something that you feel within. And it's this guiding knowledge that allows you to work to the best of your ability, to work in alignment with your energies, and really is there to allow you to work within the unseen world. Trust the timing of events in your life, because sometimes we just need to take action and connect with our inner wisdom. So this Mercury retrograde, a time of messages, things may be brought to light that we need to see at this time. And it is not to hinder or hurt us. It is to allow us to illuminate those things and aid us to move forward through them. Mercury retrograde is infamous for being a time of challenge and miscommunication where life turns upside down. There are going to be jokes that it's best just to stay in your house during Mercury retrograde, to avoid travel, talking to people, new projects, signing paperwork, or making decisions. While there's a small level of truth to some of this, there has become this massive cultural superstition and stigma about Mercury retrograde that's actually incredibly disempowering. Astrology is meant to shine a light on the energetic influences happening so we can know what is coming, respond accordingly, and use the energy to thrive. Mercury is going to retrograde 3 to 4 times a year, so avoiding people and staying indoors approach really isn't realistic. Plus, there are so many positives to Mercury retrograde when you're aware of its archetype influence and choose to consciously make the most of these almost month-long retrograde periods. So keep in mind, astrological influences like Mercury retrograde are based on the basic premise that each of the planets in the sky has an effect on us physically. The position of the planets, their movements, and the relationships between them and us influence everything from personality, mood, relationship, as well as personal and global events. So in astrology, the planet Mercury rules communication, intelligence, memory, self-expression, technology, and transportation. So depending on where Mercury lies on your birth chart, a great deal about how you'll communicate, perceive, and relate to the world around you can be revealed. So what is Mercury retrograde really? The planet Mercury orbits the sun at a faster rate than the Earth. So a few times a year, Mercury catches up with the Earth and passes us on our journey around the sun. When Mercury makes this pass, from our perspective, it appears to slow down, completely stop, and then move backwards. This backwards movement is the retrograde period. It's not really moving backwards. It's just an optical illusion from Mercury passing the Earth in its orbit between the Earth and the sun. 3 to 4 times a year, Mercury makes this pass in orbit, and from our perspective on Earth, it appears to move backwards, which astrology identifies as retrograde. So the Mercury archetype. As an archetype symbol, the planet Mercury represents thought and communication that is created through thinking, writing, speaking, and teaching. Mercury is also related to travel, communication, and technology. So the common belief is that when Mercury is in retrograde, these areas of life move backwards, upside down, and act haywire during this time. But Mercury's definition, that's definitely a bad rap. But remember, you're co-creating your life experience. So yes, if you focus on the negative aspects of Mercury retrograde, they will likely manifest for you. There are, however, advantages to Mercury retrograde period. Becoming aware of the opportunities can help you to consciously make the choices to embrace the unique energy of this retrograde and to use the time to manifest blessings in your life throughout the rest of the year. It is a way of opening our eyes to what we are unable, unwilling, or just too busy to see before. This makes Mercury retrograde a wonderful time to review what you are doing. Rather than jumping into something new, it's a great time to finish up existing projects, refine and make your existing work better, and reveal situations and innovations where you may have felt blocked or stagnant before. It may also be easier to see things from another vantage point, another person's perspective. Subconscious issues and patterns may come up for you to review, reflect on, and resolve. Retrogrades are an opportunity to slow down and shift your focus inward. Yes, sometimes we will need to be extra patient as transportation, technology, and communication processes may reveal some issues, take a bit more time. But when you're open to the energy of Mercury retrograde, this doesn't have to be a bad thing and can also be like a breath of fresh air when you realize it's okay to slow down, be patient, and let things work themselves out. Sometimes stepping out of our normal routines, as Mercury may trigger for you, is the best way to refresh yourself, gain a deeper understanding, and see things in a new way. It does sometimes show us things we need to redo, fix, or reflect completely. So rather than being frustrated when you realize something needs to be rebuilt, think of it as an opportunity to create something even better than you would have before. In terms of communication, some will say to avoid talking to others, to limit communication issues that sometimes seem to be more prevalent during Mercury retrograde. While communication can sometimes be more challenging during this time, those sticky conversations usually have a purpose and can lead to breakthroughs, deeper insight, and more authentic relationship connections. So really, the energies that are going to come up during this Mercury retrograde are going to bring you to an inner perspective of self, one that is going to allow you to reset, rethink, reveal, renew, reflect, refresh, reevaluate, reassess, realign, redo, relearn, rethink, rewrite. It is all about rediscovering those aspects of ourselves, the ways that we communicate, the stories that we're telling, the ways that we think, the ways that we perceive things, to enable us to move into the energy of growth and renewal. If we never looked back on things, we would never grow and renew. It is from the mistakes, it is from those learnings, it is from those things that we reevaluate that allow us to move forward. Now, this Mercury retrograde is going to be extremely powerful as it is moving between these two liminal zodiac signs. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. Aries is about new beginnings. Pisces is about ending cycles. Aries is the cardinal fire sign. Pisces is a mutable water sign. So these energies are going to influence the way that this retrograde is going to make us think about our stories, think about our communication, and move forward. As the first sign of the zodiac, Aries is about the energy of I am. It is about the energy of building for ourselves, building from those desires, acting on the desires, and initiating something new. Pisces, as the last sign of the zodiac, is about the completion of a cycle. It is about balance and going with the flow, and it is about the duality of darkness and light, about the duality in life that needs to exist in order for us to flow and swim in our balance. As the mutable water sign, it is about changing with our emotions, changing with our emotional waters, and going with the flow of things, allowing us to see in a more spiritually inclined way that the cycles that we have been working through are what lead us to our new beginnings. So retrograding between these two zodiac signs is really going to allow us to work through the energies of endings and new beginnings. This entire beginning of 2025 has been shifting us from endings and beginnings with all these shifting energies from Pisces to Aries, allowing us to end cycles we have been swimming through in order to initiate cycles new. This Mercury retrograde, coming off the back of the total lunar eclipse in Virgo, is really helping us to shift into the transformational energies that eclipse season brings, allowing us to readdress the cycles that we're working through and initiate something new, allowing us to slow down and look at how our communication and the stories we're giving and the thoughts that we have are influencing our inner self. For our inner self is a reflection of the outside world. When we take time to work on our inner self, work on the ways that we are thinking, work on the mindsets that we hold, work on the stories that we are telling, work on the forms of communication we are giving, we're able to then reflect those things out into the outside world. And that effectively is what a retrograde period is. It is about doing the inner work to enable us to move forward in the outer world once the planet moves back into its forward movement. This Mercury retrograde is going to allow us to end cycles in order for us to move into new cycles. Moving into Pisces at the end of its retrograde is going to allow us to move back into the end of the cycles that need to be wrapped up, giving us this energy of completion that will then allow us to move back into Aries again in its forward movement to allow us to initiate new forms of communication, to initiate new mindsets, new ways of thinking, allowing us to see and give messages in different ways that are from a place of closure, from a place of learning, from a place that is in alignment with ourself, but using the wisdom that we have gained through the cycles that we are working through.